is looking at bringing proposed bills in the beginning of August. The first of those is a permitting requirement. This fits within the framework of state law and would have short-term rentals required to obtain a city permit, and properties would still have to meet basic safety and property maintenance standards, would require owners to provide a local and emergency contact, and the permits can be revoked after 3 violations. The parameters for the permit are very closely provided by state law. So there's a lot of requirements. The requirements that we would be proposing as part of the permitting process, just about every step of that is defined by state law. The requirements that we are able to ask for in an application, the revocation process, just about every step of that is defined by state law. And I understand there were some questions leading up to this meeting about the permitting process, and we were able to get some questions, some answers to those questions for some of the council members that came up. Our understanding is that the permit application would be live as soon as the ordinance was effective. But I do understand there would be some sort of window in which properties would have to get compliant, but people would be able to apply for the permit as soon as the ordinance was effective. The turnaround time, state law requires the turnaround time to be no greater than 30 days, but we're expecting that to be likely faster. And the people would be required to display the permit at their property. The next proposed item is the special exception. Now, under state law, this would only apply to non-owner occupied short-term rentals. So what that means is if a resident owns their home, resides at that home, and wants to use it as a short-term rental, this would not apply to that situation. This would apply to a property that is not owner-occupied. State law would not permit an owner-occupied special exception. So for sake of clarification, this would only apply for non-owner-occupied properties. So we would propose, council sees special exceptions quite often, especially with the zoning and annexation committee. So non-owner-occupied short-term rentals would require a special exception for a new use that we would establish called a short-term rental use. And this would be handled through the existing zoning process for special exceptions, where people would apply for it, it would go through the BZA, recommendation to council, and council would adopt, would rule on those the same as you do now for the special exceptions. Those would have to meet the existing requirements for a special exception of the municipal code. And those criteria are that the proposed use will not be injurious to the public health, safety, comfort, community moral standards, convenience, or general welfare. The property use will not injure or adversely affect the use of the adjacent area of property values therein. The proposed use will be consistent with the character of the district in which it is located and the use is authorized therein, and the proposed use is compatible with the recommendations of the City of South Bend Comprehensive Plan. So those are the existing requirements for special exception in the municipal code, and that's what would be applied for these. And the short-term rental use would be defined as holding a permit. So that ensures consistency between these two requirements to the permit and the special exception. And so what this means for neighborhoods means we have better information on who to contact if issues come up. If police recognizes that there's a potential issue as short-term rental property, they're able to contact that owner to let them know there might be something going on at a location. We need to have clear enforcement tools if properties are causing problems, and we have consistent rules that are applied fairly throughout the neighborhoods. We can focus on reducing the impacts, not on eliminating short-term rentals. And as a quick review of some of the parameters that we're working in, short-term rentals cannot be banned under Indiana law, so that's not something that we can even consider. The city may not enforce limits on how many short-term rentals can exist throughout the city, but permit and special exception frameworks can enhance oversight, and existing noise and nuisance rules can apply the same as any home, and repeat citations can subject properties to permit revocation. Are there any questions?
Thank you. I would like to say that we do have 2 committees, which is very encouraging, and the collaboration is much needed. I would like to recommend that when we start the questions with the committee members, we take 2 questions from each committee. For example, community investment, 2 questions, and then we move to zoning and annexation, and would ask council members to try to be as clear as possible. And I may be asking to have some time from the chair of the upcoming committee meeting as well.
So I concur with that. I'm at peace with that, with the zoning and annexation committee. I will only have one. I will give an extra one of mine to the 4th district person, because so many of the issues are in the 4th district that I've already said that I'm already going to give one of my questions to her. So I'm at peace if she has to.
Thank you so much, Chair Davis. We're going to start with community investment. Are there 2 members at this time? If you have any questions, please address those to Attorney Jenna Thoreau. And we will be making, indicating the questions and try to get as much as information as possible. And I will also request that we have a copy of the PowerPoint as well. Okay. Councilwoman Ophira Rogers, and then I saw the hand of Councilwoman Sheila Niskowski. And those are the first 2 for community investment. And then we move to the zoning and annexation committee for 2 questions from their committee members as well.
Yes, I have a question about the permit.
Yeah.
What I'd like to know about the permit is, how will you know, okay, say I own an Airbnb, okay? So you're out of town, maybe let's just go real far. You're coming in for a football game and I want to rent my Airbnb out, okay? So now how does this permit work? Do I have to come and buy this permit ahead of time? Or is this permit something that once I buy it, it allow me to rent my property out numerous times? What does this permit allow me to do?
So the permits are good for a year. So if you are the owner of a short-term rental, once you apply for the permit and are granted the permit, that is good for a year. And so, for example, if you owned a short-term rental that you liked to use during football season, you apply for the permit once, and that covers you for the whole season.
And my second question is the emergency contact. So just because I list a name and a number, will this be available for the police on the weekend? It should be, the police need to get in contact. Who will be getting contact me? Who will contact me if there was a problem on my property? And also, for this emergency number, is there any restraints that I must answer, or what are we gonna do if I don't answer them? Just because I have a number there.
So generally, it would probably be police that would be needing to contact the emergency number. We're requiring owners to provide them. If there's no requirement as far as like you need to answer the phone within so many minutes or anything like that. the state law doesn't include parameters that we can set. And like I mentioned, the state law is kind of very tightly limits what we can ask for, what we can require, is that we can ask for contact information, but doesn't allow us to like revoke a permit if your emergency contact doesn't answer.
So then what will we do then? Okay, so now there's a problem on my property. You can't get in touch with me. So now it's up to the law to go ahead on and do what they need to do, or how is this gonna be handled?
And then if, I believe Sergeant Bourne is online, if he has any feedback on how, essentially, like right now, we have contact information for very few owners. So I don't know if he might have any feedback on how that would work.
Okay.
Yes, if you all can hear me.
And then after we hear from him, we need to go to Councilwoman Miskowski, and then I turn it over to Chair Davis for two members of the citizen, his committee members to ask questions, and I'll circle back to community investment.
Can everyone hear me?
We can't
Hello?
hear you if you're trying to talk for it.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, in reference to that individual not answering their
I don't
phone
believe there's
for the
any
police.
a sound issue, and so
Okay.
we'd have to seek directions from IT or business.
I can find out.
Officer Bourne, if you could put your question in the chat or your comment in the chat, and we'll have it on the record and make sure we.
I can watch for it. Say it out loud too.
Okay.
Thank you, Attorney Throne, and then we go to CNA committee.
Employment and Annexation Committee, first of all.
Oh, Sheila, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, okay. That's my apology. I'm just get
Oh,
back.
Sheila.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Councilwoman Committee Member Sheila Miskowski. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, the question that I had, when we talked about the local person, there had to be a contact as a local person. In stating, so if it could be a local contact, say it's my cousin or my sister, is there anything that the state law says that where the city can say we require a property manager, especially if somebody owns 10 or 20 of these? Someone locally, can we require a property manager? That's my biggest question. Because if they have that many properties, they should be able to afford a property manager that's here locally that can handle these issues locally.
So I know there is something about property manager, I'm just, if the property has a property manager, they have to provide that information. But there's no requirement that at a certain portfolio level, that an owner retain a property manager. But if they have one, then they have to provide information.
But is it can the city within within what we can do, can we require them to have a property manager? That's my question.
Likely not, because the state law says that we can only ask for the information that's provided in the statute as part of our application process. And so if the statute only says if you have a property manager provided, we couldn't go beyond that and say you have to have a property manager in order to be eligible.
Okay. My other question was for the violations of the short-term rentals, and you said after 3 violations, it could be revoked. What is the term that it would be revoked for, and what opportunities do they have to go back, and what would those guidelines look like? Is there going to be a, like you're on a trial period here because there's been these major incidents and it's affected the neighborhoods, there's been calls, perhaps our resource officers has had to step in. There's a number of different reasons, but.
So the answer to those are provided in the statute. If 3 or more citations are issued within a calendar year, then we can revoke for a period of not to exceed 1 year. They are provided notice and opportunity for a hearing as part of that process. And then an owner can apply for a permit if a previous permit has been revoked, but then they have to pay for it again. And the new permit cannot be issued until any outstanding fines are paid.
And depending on the severity of those violations that occurred that caused the revocation, is there any opportunity, I guess, or I guess guideline where the city just says, no, we don't want this short-term rental back here because of all of these problems? Is that even possible per the state law? Do we have to issue the permit, I guess is my question.
So I think that would depend on whether, like, what the status was as far as the special exception. There's potential unknowns in this scenario with the special exception. It's possible that by having the permit revoked, a property could either lose a legal non-conforming status or lose a special exception. And so there's possibilities there where if a property that was in such a dire state that they had to have the property revoked or the permit revoked, might have to come back again for a new special exception, and then all those things could be considered.
Okay, well, thank you so much for answering my
Absolutely.
questions. Thank you so much for the presentation and for being here tonight for the committee.
And I did want to note for Councilwoman Clinton Rogers, Sergeant Warren responded in reference to someone not answering their phone if an issue was occurring. PD would be documenting that there was no contact. If we had to step in, we would use the laws available to us in that situation. I would also think that if an individual is not answering when something is urgent, that could be a reason for an individual to not renew their license for the next year. But I would refer that to Jenna to ensure that it's okay.
Okay,
I don't know that it would be, but that would be something to have to look at.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. For zoning annexation, yield the questions starting off first in this round to Councilwoman Heidi Bidenter.
Hi there, thanks for being here. So the permitting process is largely, so I understand, is it true that we have about 800 of these short-term rentals in St. Joseph County? 800?
City of South Bend.
City of South Bend, excuse me.
I'm staying in the zone. Yeah.
So about 1,300 active over the last 5 years, so that could range from active.
We said about 1,300 active over the last 5 years.
Okay, in the City of South Bend. So theoretically, we want 1,300 rentals to file a permit, correct? How are we going to enforce that?
If a property is operating as a short-term rental without a permit, there are enforcement mechanisms where they can be fined for operating without a permit.
And how much would that be?
That is $500 per violation, and each transaction completed without a permit is a separate violation.
Who is that called into?
Sorry?
Who do you call that into?
If yes, and this is where I'm going. It's like, most people are good actors in this space, right? And we're really talking about a small group of individuals that are probably, causing 90% of our problem in this space. So how do we make sure that that group of people are registering? Do we already know who? We should know because we've had calls to those houses over and over again, right? So what steps are we going to take to make sure that we are really addressing sort of, forgive me for saying, but the bad actors in this space? We know who they are. So what are we going to do to make sure that those folks are in fact permitted and are well aware of nuisance, trash, noise ordinances, so that when we come to their places, the police have to be dispatched, that they get those fines, that they understand what those consequences are?
My understanding is that there is going to be messaging that this is a new requirement, that once, I think I mentioned that there was going to be some initial period to allow the owners the opportunity to seek their permits before not having a permit is a violation. And during that time, there's going to be messaging to owners, both like things like this where we're making known that this is something that is potentially coming, as well as trying to inform owners in the community that this is a requirement that they'll have to be complying with.
Okay. Sounds rather passive, right? At this point, I'm concerned about the folks, again, that handful of bad actors are the ones that we're really focusing on for this, and making sure that, that they comply.
I don't know if zoning or if anybody has any more specific information on like how we're doing that, if anybody else wants to.
Watch it. Can you identify yourself and just share?
Tim Stowe, zoning specialist for the City of South Bend with offices on the 5th floor. Essentially, what we'd be doing is most likely identifying, I mean, we could definitely partner with code, but it's really identifying ones that we do have some records of. And then, as mentioned, we can work off of codes like violations and start to identify the bad actors. And then we can run a check through the websites. But it would be mostly based on reporting, because that's how we act with zoning violations as it stands.
I think that would be a good first step. I know that the phone calls that I've received in the last few days would appreciate us being more proactive about the bad actors and, you know, trying to get ahead of that. Lots of people will do the permitting because they're good actors and they want to be, you know, thoughtful to their neighbors and they don't want to return on a Monday and, you know, be met with all kinds of things, right? So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Can I ask one more question? It's a quick one. Can we do occupancy requirements based on the number of bedrooms?
So any occupancy requirements would be limited to those that are already included in like fire code and like existing types of codes. We can't incorporate that into the permitting. That would be limited to what's already incorporated in existing safety codes.
Can somebody look that up for us so that we know what that is? So, because, I mean, I'm thinking that like if you've got a 3-bedroom house, then the limit should be probably, I don't know, 6 people, maybe 2 more because you got a pull-out couch, right? So something along those lines, again, trying to cut off the idea that like 20 people can like hunker down in a 3-bedroom home, right? So if we could look that up in terms of the fire code, that'd be helpful. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm at peace. Okay. Back to community investment.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Wait, just excuse me.
I have a question too.
Oh, go ahead. I'm at peace.
I was gonna go to those individuals who might not be on.
But she's on the committee. She's
I
on the
know she
committee.
is,
Go
but I
ahead.
want to make sure, Chair, that you can give us additional time.
I'm at peace.
Okay.
What are the issues of the next committee has already been asked to be tabled?
Well, we're gonna continue then, if you're gonna give us additional time before we continue with the committee members, and we do want to have some time for further discussion as well.
Go ahead.
So we're gonna now you're the chair of ZNA, so the next committee member will be Councilwoman Rachel Thomas Morgan, if I'm correct.
Thank you. Really appreciate this. The time has come. I know several of us have been working on this, researching it on our own for the past couple of years. I certainly have a file of research myself. And I've been using this really helpful, in addition to webinars, this really helpful book called How Governments Regulate Short-Term Rentals for Happier Communities. I ordered a few chapters for council. At one point, they're floating around, but happy to share with you. That said, a lot of the creative solutions here that are illustrated are not allowable to us due to state law, and even more recently, because of House Enrolled Act 1210 that took effect July 1st of this year, revised some of those and essentially validated some of the more creative solutions that communities like Carmel and Fishers were implementing and that we were also looking at. So unfortunately, some of those creative ideas are off the table, but there's some clarifications, I think, that are worth exploring. And not having read it in depth, the way that they define, or as you understand Attorney throw the cap on total limits
Mhm.
citywide. So then, does that allow us to look at other caps, say, caps per block, and distance and spacing of these properties? For example, another one being, we already brought up occupancy limits. But also possibly cap on number of rental days in a year. 200 as opposed to, 300 and whatever. So it just, are those stipulated in state code?
So the provision regarding special exceptions does specifically say that special exceptions cannot be enforced in a manner that is intended or has the effect of prohibiting or unreasonably restricting short-term rentals. But there is the ability to have laws or regulations that address fire and building safety, sanitation, transportation, traffic control, and pollution control, if enforcement is the same as applies to similar properties that are not short-term rentals. And so that's where I got into the answer to Dr. Beidinger's question regarding things like the applicability of occupancy limits, where the generally enforced occupancy limit for any residence, we couldn't say that there's a different one for short-term rentals than there is for regular rental properties, or if you're renting a home for a long-term rental. Any regulation that would be particularly applied to short-term rentals can't be any more strict than what it would be for either typical residential use or a long-term rental.
So some of the cap examples that I brought up likely are not permissible then? Is that what you're saying? Likely. But it's something that we could look at. I mean, and another one I would add to that list would be the number per owner.
And that could, there's not a specific prohibition of looking at that, but there's also, it also doesn't fall within what we're able to look at in issuing the permit either. So it's one of those things that if there's a way to regulate it in a way that's not more strict on short-term rentals than it is for long-term rentals or other similarly situated properties. And that's where it can get tricky to make some of those distinctions.
Yeah, okay. Those are some things though that I really look forward to looking into and digging deeper in. I mean, those are some more creative things that, may not be specifically stipulated, but potentially permissible in the way that that's structured. So I can send you some of those.
That'd be great.
And then my second question is, I don't know if it's so much a question, but a concern. We have not been able to fully execute landlord registration. And so this is the concern I raised with, I understand it is important for us to have a registry and to have the permit, but unless we're aggressive about and really proactive about doing that, we're going to have the same kinds of issues that we have with the landlord registration. So just share that as not a question, but a general concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
know Councilwoman Sherry Bowden Simpson. Yeah. Go ahead.
Are we back to community? Okay, I still have a concern about the bad actors, so I'll give a scenario. So a non-owner STR is operating a STR without a permit, and perhaps they have received
multiple violations. Can you deny permitting based on failure to pay fines? And also, can they lose their special exception based on past behavior because they have shown that they are injurious to the neighborhood?
So to your first question, if a property doesn't have a permit, they would not be eligible for a special exception because the way the special exception use is defined and all of the special exception uses in the zoning ordinance have a description of what that means. And so the short-term rental use that's being developed for the special exception includes a properly permitted property.
I think I was thinking of, let me clarify.
Yeah.
You caught them, you know, they're trying to get away with it.
Mhm.
Okay, you caught me. Okay, now I'm gonna get my permit. That's what I'm saying. They're gonna apply for it, and since they are non-occupied SDR, they have to get the special.
Okay.
They have to get the special exception, which I really like that because they have to come before the council and answer to it. So that's why I was wondering, first they have to pay those fines, right?
Mhm.
And yes, this is them trying to do right, but I'm gonna just make sure that we have some teeth in this because they shouldn't have been doing that in the first place.
So if there would be, not necessarily, the statute is very particular that if they provide the contact information, they're eligible for the permit.
Wow.
Where more of the discretion potentially comes in is in evaluating the criteria for the special exception. The special exception criteria that include the proposed use will not be injurious to the public health, safety, comfort, community moral standards, convenience, or general welfare, or the property use will not injure or adversely affect the use of the adjacent area of property values therein, or the proposed use will be consistent with the character of the district in which it is located and the use is authorized therein. The property has to meet all of those to meet the requirements for a special exception. And so facts that go to the failure to meet one of those criteria are certainly relevant in the consideration of the special exception.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If at this time, Councilwoman White, we could hear two people from the audience come in, whoever the first two.
Okay,
And
thank
then-
you.
Then I'm at peace on this side.
Only have one, that is our citizen
Okay.
member,
Oh, yes,
and that's Mr. Kevin Upton.
go ahead.
So I have a question for the attorney. How would I know whether a property in my neighborhood is a legitimate rental?
I would say once the permitting system is active, we could contact the city for that.
So could there be a more positive requirement, like notifying the neighborhoods, publishing the list of licenses, incorporating communication with HOAs so that people are aware? HOAs have rules, for example, like parking, that could be incorporated.
I'm not sure if anything like that is currently being considered as far as like providing lists, but that certainly could be helpful.
But I mean, it alarms me that there's 1,300 rentals. And I know there are some in my neighborhood, but I don't know which ones have been licensed, which ones are legitimate, which ones are just sort of catch as catch can. We've had problems in your district. So it seems like this is very passive. I would want to see something more public about where the properties are, who is the person to contact. And I think if you incorporate the HOAs in this, and many of these areas have HOAs, the HOAs would want to know what the contact was. May be able to prevent police action by getting ahead of the curve on that.
And, I know some of the zoning folks who are helping with this, are also present and can hear your feedback, so thank you.
I agree with that, and I think that's one of the reasons why what Councilwoman Thomas Murray just said, other cities have tried to be creative about it, and this recent rulings that just started July 1 revoked some of those actions. And so I think that I appreciate our colleagues in other cities. Plus, I think we need to do is try to really go forward and force the state legislature to challenge them and give it the answer, because it's always a big challenge. It's always a big thing. So I hear what you're saying. Can we quickly have two people from the audience? I know you all come. I don't want everybody to. The first two to come, just stand right there, and then we hear you state your name and address, and we'll come up. Sir, you can come forward to the mic. And anybody else, who will be the second person? We need one more. Anybody else? Thank you. Just stand right there. State your name and address, and just share your thoughts.
I'm a real estate agent, been working for about over
30 years.
years.
Keep that microphone so we can hear you.
My name is Bruce Gordon. I worked for about 30 years as a real estate agent.
Sir, can you state your address, please?
Yeah,
For the record.
18920 Cedar Mill Court. My office is at 331 South Eddy Street in South Bend. I'm in an area where there's a lot of short-term rentals around me. For me, what I'm not hearing here at all is the other side of short-term rentals. When you have a house that someone's not living in, they pay twice or three times the taxes. So there's a tax base that comes in. I have clients, just went by a guy's house today. He's putting a bunch of money into it. It looks really nice, nicer than the houses around him. That's the other side of this coin, which I've not heard at all. It seems like a very one-sided coin. I'm mixed on this because I sell houses to people, and houses keep going up and young people can't buy homes. So as more and more people buy these properties, it takes houses off the market. If someone said 1,300, there's 13 of them gone. But then we live in a free country. So you're gonna say, well, you can't own more houses? It's the way it is. I don't like it, we don't like it here, but it's the way it is. I have a client that he's gonna end up buying 3 or 4 or 5 houses there. They're all gonna be in very good shape. They're gonna have, if they have 6 people in there, that's 6 people coming to town, they're gonna go out and buy food and everything else. It's gonna stimulate our area. And no one's talking about that here. There's another side to this. I get the other side. My side of what I'm hearing, if there's a small amount of bad actors, instead of hiring a bunch of people to manage this whole thing, can you not pass legislation that when your house has problems, then you do something about it, instead of slapping everybody's hand? That's one of my questions that I bring up at this time. Instead of having all these people that manage the good actors, can't you just fight with the bad actors? In my experience in real estate, those people are really fun to deal with anyway. So, I would like to see another side of this brought up, since I just keep hearing negative. Because there's a good side to this. I have clients that have excellent rentals. So the other thing that came to mind is I have a client that lived in the area where there's a lot of students. It's not a short-term rental. She had to leave her house because the students next door had 200 or 300 people. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, she called the police. The police wouldn't do anything. So we're having a hard time managing what we already have, and we want to take on more. I think we need to focus on the people that own houses, those people taking care of their houses. 621 Columbia, drive by it when you live here. It's across the street from one of my places. They don't cut the grass. I've come here, talked to code enforcement. No one's doing anything. Go look at 621 Columbia and ask yourself, how can this be? This isn't a short-term rental because there's not even a house on it. The city has the ability to go out and cut the grass, but they will not. They cut the tree lawn and that's it. So you can't manage what you have. You want to take on more? Manage what you have and then take on some more and deal with the bad actors. I just want to bring on another side that is, I'm not hearing a single person say anything positive about these all. I realize there's a negative side to it. Someone said, well, there's gunshots and there's trash and this. Well, you have that in houses that people live in too.
Gotcha. Thank you, Sharon. All right, we take one more.
My name is Mary Ellen O'Connell. I live at 129 West North Shore Drive in the North Shore
Triangle neighborhood, and I'm a member of our neighborhood association board. And this has been a huge topic in our neighborhood. We're just off Michigan, of course, from the Notre Dame campus, and it is a growing and huge concern for us. And I really am thankful to so many of you for taking this on and for having the courage to move forward, because there are a lot of big, well-financed interests against it. But if we don't get a handle on this, I really think I think the Indiana legislature has made sure that we cannot do very much. I think it is a very low bar to ask people to have at least a permit. That's a good place to start. Although I will concur with the gentleman that I would love to see more resources into code enforcement across the board. He's right. We can call code enforcement. We have one house in our neighborhood that is falling down. It is a real nuisance and a danger, and nothing is done about it. So if we're going to do this right, we will need the resources to ensure enforcement and so forth. I would like to see more emphasis, not just on the nuisance side, but on the other side that Troy Warner spoke to, that preserving the quality of our neighborhoods. The president of our neighborhood association, Joe Broden, has a small sign in her yard that says, "Neighborhoods need neighbors." Our elderly need a neighbor to make sure they're okay. We need school children in our schools. Those come from families, not short-term rentals. Some of the families in our neighborhood can no longer afford their property taxes because of the football mansions that are being thrown up. And I can't quite understand how those buildings are meeting the zoning requirements for neighborhoods. They don't seem to respect setbacks. They seem to be far too big. I think many of you will be aware of the very, very large places going up on Angela. Changing the character of a neighborhood. Throwing out people who live in small houses and could walk and preserve the neighborhood. There's no protection for our glorious trees, and we've done so much to try to protect the tree cover. But these developers who are building these houses, these people who are trying to make quick cash on the 5 weekends a year, or I guess it's more now, where their residences have 20 and 30 people in them, are not respecting our neighborhoods. So if we could really have as robust a new regulation as we can, get this automated, and I think the suggestion was great, publication of who has, and then we can go up to the house where we're seeing people coming and going and saying, "Can we see your license? You're not on the list." We can all help with the enforcement problem. That's what neighborhoods and neighborhood associations should be about. But I hope we can also be much more proactive as a city in ensuring that the quality of our neighborhoods through zoning and making sure that the zoning requirements, we should not become a student dormitory in the North Shore Triangle because we have a limit on the number of unrelated adults who can live in one house. I regularly talk to my own students, I'm a law professor at Notre Dame, about renting houses in my neighborhood when there are 5 and 6 unrelated adults. So we've got a big project, but this is very exciting that we're moving ahead and doing what we can. And there may be changes in the Indiana legislature this election year. There may be changes in the federal approach to housing, and we will be set to improve this regulation as we go forward. So really compliments to everyone, and I just encourage you to be as robust as possible for the good of South Bend.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Closing out, I appreciate everybody. I appreciate Attorney Warner, Chairperson, Chief of Staff, and thank you for that. Thanks for this presentation from Mr. And again, we will look forward to your follow-up and everything else from that standpoint. And you seem like you want to have some closing words?
Yeah, we're just kind of in follow-up. I think, so we've got some time here. We have a draft proposal of a framework of a bill. We will share that along with the PowerPoint with the clerk's office so the public is able to look up that bill in the next few weeks. If they would like to we encourage folks to contact council members, contact zoning at zoning@sbdc.org.
southbendin.gov with the email, and the mayor's office at Mayor Mueller at southbendin.gov. After we take the feedback from this night, and going forward, we will look at filing a proposal for further council consideration in August.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. I know Dr. Weidinger will be having a meeting, just a neighborhood meeting soon. We'll let you all know, and we'll follow up with that presentation that I plan to be at. Councilwoman White, your closing thoughts as closes out.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Davis. I would like to say that this is a great beginning, and I'm very appreciative of the work that's done thus far, but also we need to hear from each and every one of you that are here. Please send us your questions, your concerns, but also share with your neighbors, and we'll be reaching out also to the neighborhood association so that they will have this information as well. This is very, very important, and I appreciate the city, attorney Jenna Thoreau, also Mr. Daryl Scott, who's been very quiet this time, and then also Chief of Staff Troy Warner. It's so important when we do come together, we have good conversations, and we're not going to agree on everything, but at least we can put it on the table and talk, and the goal is to make South Bend much better and to ensure that you are citizens, that you're living in safe, clean neighborhoods, and that's our commitment. So thank you so much. Don't forget to reach out to your council person, email us, call us, and we will respond. So thank you so much, and I'm going to turn this portion of our committee meeting to a close, and you will be able to download not only the PowerPoint, but other information as well. So thank you, and now I'll turn it over to our next committee, which is zoning, and the chair is Dr. Oliver Davis Jr. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We will now call our meeting to order. I did get a note that we did have one of our bills here, just double checking that. It's coming up. During the zoning activity, Bill 3826 needs to be tabled until August 10th because the petition was tabled by the Board of Zoning Appeals until August 3rd. That is what I'm hearing. Okay? Can we go ahead and just do that one right now? Oh, first of all, we need to have you to do the roll and all that other good stuff, right? Okay, go ahead.
Committee Member White,
Present.
Committee Member Dr. Weidinger,
Present.
Citizen Member Stacy Odom,
Present.
Citizen Member Kay Farlow,
Present.
Committee Vice Chair Thomas Morgan, Committee Chair Dr. Davis,
I'm here.
all present.
All present. And we just can skip down real quick to Bill 3826 and get that one out the way real quick, if we don't mind. And then we can come back. And again, like I just previously stated, that one needs to be tabled until August the 10th because the petition was tabled by the Board of Zoning Appeals at their August 3rd meeting. And so can we have a motion to do that, please?
So moved.
We can have a second.
Second.
Can we just do it all in favor? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Yeah, that has been carried, and that will be moved to August the 10th meeting. All righty, now back to our one bill for us today, which was a follow-up from our last meeting, bill number 3026, amending the zoning ordinance for various properties located on Scott Street, West Rain Street, and how Frederick we said, whose court? That was a substitute. And we would like to thank the administration. You all sent us the wording that came out of our last South Bend Plan meeting. That was sent to all of us as requested. So we had a chance to review that. And people, I know I had different calls. And so we now can proceed with a very short summary. We've already gone through everything, so you don't have to go through every single thing. Sure. Just the cap shell of what you are and why you're asking for this change.
Absolutely, can do. So Mark Del Streeto, zoning specialist with the city of South Bend, with offices on the 5th floor of this building. So as Dr. Davis mentioned, obviously this was tabled from last week. This is a petition for rezoning from U1 to U2. The applicant South Bend Heritage is looking to rezone a number of properties on West Main Street, some of which they've already built on. Those are shown right here. And some other properties that they're looking to build on soon, which are just down the street. Here's a proposed site plan for the project showing 5 duplexes. And the 2022 Near West Side Neighborhood Plan that was adopted by the council and made an amendment to the city's comprehensive plan shows all of these properties going to U2 in future zoning map, aligning with the petitioner's request here. So the rezoning comes to you with a favorable recommendation from the city's plan commission, who heard this at their June meeting. They recommended that it be approved with a written commitment that an apartment house or a building with 3 or 4 units could not be built on these properties. Staff is in support of the rezoning no matter what, but would recommend that the petition be sent to the full council without the written commitment, primarily to align with the adopted neighborhood plan, and by extension, the city's comprehensive plan. It would also provide Heritage with a bit more flexibility in what they can build as finances change and they want to pursue a slightly different development than what is currently proposed. Finally, 2 of the main concerns that were brought up at the Planning Commission that led to the written commitment were utilities, specifically related to water pressure and parking. Public Works has since completed some pressure testing for water in the area and found that it is on par with most of the rest of the city, so it shouldn't be an issue. We do have our city engineer, Abigail Magus, here this evening. She can answer additional questions on that if those are needed. And we believe that there's also sufficient space on these lots for parking pads and or garages and similar rezonings to U2, including a different one for Heritage on Turnock Street in Northeast in 2024. Have been approved on streets similar with the similar capacity for on-street parking.
Thank you. The only thing that I would say at this time in future issues, I would recommend that if the area plan makes a decision that is not in keeping with what the staff has, if prior to the meeting, there could be a formal letter that could be sent to us, our committee, and with an explanation of your rationale. So, because in our last meeting, I thought in our South Bend plan meeting, there was a request to just go to the BZA and go one by one in terms of the area, but it was like our agreement was to add the written commitments, and that's what we concluded with. So I was completely caught by surprise in the last meeting that you all had changed that request. And, I understand why people could change requests, but out of respect to our time and out of respect to what we all took, we took a while to deal with that. And if you all wanted to make that change, if that happens in our next few meetings up, can you please notify us prior to that Monday, even when we do our packet, so we would have time as a committee to hear your point of view, questions, and answer those questions prior to the meeting. And I think that would make everything run smoother. You have any feedback on that, please?
Yeah, no, we can absolutely do that in the future, yes. I think this was kind of the first time this had happened with our current staff, where we were recommending something different than the Planning Commission or the Board of Zoning Appeals. So apologies for our oversight on that, but we can absolutely do that going forward.
I appreciate that. Any other, I know we've heard this presentation, so I'm just wanting to go from council members to hear your thoughts already. I know last time, and out of fairness, we didn't have Mr. Marco. You were not here last time. You would like to just share a word before us? I know you weren't here at our last meeting. Can you just please come forth and just share? And then we'll hear from some council members, and then we'll close out and make a vote. We're running a little behind, but what do you think?
Sure. Marco Mariani, Executive Director, South Bend Heritage Foundation, with offices at 803 Lincoln Way West in South Bend. So we're really just excited to move this rezoning forward because we were going through a process of where we were doing special exceptions. under the current zoning. So this is not that that's not a fine procedure, but we were trying to align with the plan. It does allow us some additional flexibility if we wanted to do something more intense than just a duplex. Plus it allows, I think the city, the planning department's been really interested in this cottage court idea, where we could group a few more homes and provide some more rental housing and more efficiently in a space like this. Provide some more housing. We like that idea. We wanted to align with what it was the city planning department wanted to do. And everyone felt that the rezoning was really the best way to go in this particular instance. So that's why we decided to put it forward. And we're excited to get started. We have a CDBG grant, which will allow us to do our first 2 duplexes there on Main Street. We still have to get those completely financed. But once the zoning's finished, we'll be able to move forward with those first 2, and then I think do some additional planning with the planning department under that new zoning to make sure we're optimizing the balance of those lots.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
we need to accept the substitute.
You didn't accept the substitute last time? I do apologize. I can remember. All in favor of accepting the substitute? Well, do I need a motion to accept the substitute?
I move to accept substitute
Do you have
bill
a second?
3026. Second.
All in favor of accepting the substitute?
Aye.
All opposed? It is accepted. Thank you for that clarification. I do apologize. All right, now we will hear. You can be seated unless anybody has a question for us. You do?
I have questions, but.
Go ahead. I'm at peace.
You can sit down.
Oh, okay. Okay,
That's
go ahead.
right. This is where the great words.
Oh, okay, I'm at peace. Go ahead with the questions now.
Okay, great. So I just want to say, I've really, over the past couple of weeks, I've gone back and forth on this. I was deeply involved in the neighborhood plan meetings here, and in all transparency, I am a resident who lives on Chapin Street, just around the block. And so some of the concerns that were raised are concerns that have been felt by the neighborhood. And so I really do appreciate that engineering perspective on the plan commission, and that that was raised. I think that, zoning decisions shouldn't be made in a vacuum, need to be in consultation with other departments. We know that we have a mechanism for that. You all share, it gets kind of passed through, but we as council don't necessarily see that. So I think there are just some process improvement things that we could work on. And one of them is being, the staff report wasn't uploaded in our packet, and just seeing that, and then in the letter that is sent, that the commitment is stipulated in that letter. We've been through this before, where we've had to codify what commitments were on the floor, rather than them coming to us prior. So I don't know if those are things that we could talk about and work on moving forward. I think that would go a long ways in understanding what we're seeing when it comes to us, rather than taking this time to do it on the floor. And so that said, another concern, and maybe this does go to you, Mr. Mariani, but that isn't the final site plan, correct? And so when you are saying wanting to rezone to U2 for more flexibility and a cottage court idea, there actually isn't room for a cottage court on that
Could I submit
lot, correct? I mean, because of I mean, if you could come up, I mean, so and just so everyone knows, if you are familiar, we've done ribbon cuttings, and I've been at those and celebrated the new housing on that block, because it desperately needs it, and we do want increased density. I think the question is how much density. And so we have, what is it, Marco, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 new units, or is it 12 total units?
You mean if this?
Along on Wayne and Scott that we
You
just.
mean if this was built out?
No, I'm just asking, just for broader context, we have the other duplexes.
It's 8.
8.
Yes.
duplexes,
We've done 8 units total.
8 units
Four
total.
buildings, 4 buildings.
So on Wayne and on Scott, those are the more recent construction housing. So my question, and you're on the
I
cottage
think
court.
we've got a lot of examples from the planning
Okay.
department. This is one I think we all really like. This is 14 units. I'll just explain it while we have it.
We don't have a picture of it, do we?
Yeah, this was just, I think, some concepts that the planning department has sort of put forward that maybe could be considered in the future. I really like that one, 14 units. It just sort of continues the pattern of duplexes with some off-street parking. You know, that's something that we don't have the money to build right now, but that's the density I think that we'd like to see there. I don't see us doing a sixplex, which we've done before, or something like that. So this would be the style.
So that is the final site, I mean, like, that's
not
the
a final
preferred
site
site
plan.
plan?
Neither is that. It's just sort of I think these are just conceptual submissions for
Okay,
under the existing lot pattern, what you can build and under the upzoning.
in the other duplexes that are built right next door on Wayne and Scott, there are parking pads behind it. And so I guess I just assumed if you were to move forward with this, that's what you'd have similarly.
I think so. If you looked at the arrangement
Yeah.
and some of those concepts, I think there's a lot of different ways that you could do it. And since the off-street parking really isn't required.
Yeah, but in the cottage court model, you wouldn't have as many parking pads as we do now in the existing.
I think it would be probably a little different configuration, similar to what you see there, where there might be a small lot of 4 to 5, and then maybe a couple set-off parking spaces set off.
Right now on Wayne Street, one side of the street has no parking. And so it's just on the south end of the street that is parking, but then there is parking on Scott, on-street parking. Is that where you're expecting people to park?
Along Wayne Street there, you mean?
On the one side of Wayne Street,
Yeah,
because there is no parking allowed, there's a no parking sign on the north end of Wayne Street. But then there is on-street parking at Scott.
You know, anywhere there's on-street along Wayne and Scott, until we're able to do a further build-out, we may end up doing some temporary spacing, some temporary parking behind our first 2 duplexes to accommodate parking if there's really a need for it. So I think once we get into more site planning, we'll take a hard look at that.
Are you saying because of the, one way that's less parking, that's what you're saying?
I'm sorry?
Are you saying because of the way the road is designed, is one way, that's less parking?
It's not one way, it's a brick road, and it
Yeah.
is wide enough, but on one side of the street, there's a no parking on this side of the street sign. So parking is allowable on the south end.
And we would look to change that.
Okay.
We would keep it the way.
Those are my questions.
I got you. I'm at peace.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, ma'am.
So when we're looking at this graphic up here, and those are the units that are planning on being built, I assume that they were gonna have parking pads directly behind them in that green space that's there. Is that not the case? So there will be no parking for, designated parking for those units?
There will be on-street parking. Our intention isn't necessarily to build this exact kind of a layout. This is just a conceptual potential site plan that was submitted by Avonmarsh, as well as that, which is a conceptual
Okay,
site plan.
all right.
So the parking isn't required. So what I was saying, if we did 2 duplexes on the first 2 west lots, there'd be on-street parking, and then we would likely include some sort of a parking pad
Okay.
in the back, in the interim, until we do a full sort of settled master plan for that whole area.
I know parking isn't required, but it just would be
It's nice to have.
nice to have.
Well, it helps it from a rental standpoint.
You got my point?
Yeah.
That's,
We agree with you on that.
and when you deal with our winters and everything else that we have to deal with here, it's just, I just, as new things are being built, I wish more would consider that, because it just helps out with everybody who has to buses and everybody else who has to move forward with that.
Agreed.
So, any other questions from the Any other questions from people, council members who are not on our committee or any of our citizen members? You've had time to look at it. Everybody's here. President Lee?
I do have a question or just to a confirmation. I know that the last time we met, there was this brought up idea of thinking that you would build duplex and then later on want to come and put an apartment on it. That's not the plan here. You guys would never build a duplex and then later on decide, oh, we'll put an apartment here, correct?
Yeah, no, and I'm on record here tonight, we're not gonna build a sixplex, like we've done at SB Drive, for example, where we have 3 sixplexes. We don't wanna build another one of those, they're difficult to build. What we may be interested in doing is a quadplex, like you toured on Turnout Street. But that would be a question too. I really like that layout, which I think is just a continuation of duplexes. I think from a marketability standpoint, that's a really nice arrangement of houses. So, yes, the one I sent you provided you initially. So the largest we might do there would be a triplex or a quad, which would fit in nicely too under the zoning. So,
Just would want to clarify that with the U2 zoning district that's going to, the maximum is 4 units. So, that would be the largest thing that could be built. Or they did mention the quadplex that they did on Turnout, that would be allowed. And again, I think from Public Works, it sounds like, if things were to change a little bit, generally that would be possible from a utility standpoint. And typically for rezoning, state law doesn't require a fully developed site plan. It's obviously helpful to have concepts and an idea of what's going on. But we think, because in the neighborhood plan, generally things will have to follow all of our normal zoning guidelines and everything. We know Heritage is a trusted partner. We thought presenting these plans would hopefully be sufficient.
Chair, could we hear from the engineering?
Yes, I'm at peace. Go ahead. Select engineering. Could you please state your name and address and your position and just share your thoughts about this whole endeavor?
Certainly. Good evening. My name is Abigail Mackes, city engineer with offices on the 4th floor of this building. Just recapping what Mark provided last week, the South Bend Waterworks Department went out and performed 2 pressure tests on water lines in this area, one on Wayne, one on a neighboring street. The findings were favorable, and Public Works has no concerns of all of the demands that would be presented by the various site plans that we've heard from that would be commercial within a U2 zoning district. Just for some context, when they do a pressure test, they have 3 hydrants. They open 2 of them, and 1 of them they measure the change in pressure. Each hydrant has approximately 1,000 gallons per minute flowing, so that's 2,000 gallons per minute that are flowing when they're doing this test. The pressure is still reasonable at a good level that we see across the city for these tests. For some context, that would be about 800 sinks running at the same time. So Public Works has no concerns with the developments that South Bend Heritage is proposing in this area.
So is, thank you, Chair.
No problem.
Some more questions. When new development comes to an area and engineering and zoning is in conversation with the developer, if there are recommendations from engineering that say, these are really old, the oldest water pipes in the city, and if we, it would really be incumbent to partner with the city to upgrade the capital infrastructure, for instance, so that we're not talking about raising rates or or having residents individually put boosters in, which it would be the responsibility of individual homeowners to do. I mean, is that part of the conversation, and is that something that, while it may not be a concern here, I'm just thinking moving forward in more dense areas, or, housing types, is that a scenario? that
Yeah,
is
it's
realistic?
definitely a challenge as we're promoting infill development and have aging infrastructure. I think we spoke to a lot of just the difficulties with that, as we don't want to obviously have adverse effects on rates. But we do talk about that openly through our commercial plan review process, right? What would be required given the proposed site plan that a developer would bring. And there may be opportunities to partner. I think a lot of times development agreements that we do through the Department of Community Investment sometimes help address those concerns.
Mhm. Certainly in the larger complexes, but in U2, the maximum is 4-plex, correct? For confirming that. Thank you for the additional questions, Chair.
Thank you. At this time, Brian, any more questions? Right? Anybody got any questions? Doesn't leave? Just, anybody here? Anybody? Then we need to have, the staff has requested that we move forward with this, bill without the, written commitments. That would be the request. So, Attorney Palmer, can you give us, guidance regarding the type of motion that may facilitate that, or what should we do?
First, Chair, you need to have the public hearing.
Oh, my Lord. Anybody here, let's open the public hearing. Those who'd like to speak in favor of what we've done.
At this time, I do not see any individuals in person or online wishing to speak in favor.
Those who'd like to speak in opposition.
At this time, I do not see any individuals in person or online wishing to speak in opposition.
Thank you. The public hearing is closed. Thank you. Now back to you again. What's the best way to proceed given the staff's wishes that they have argued over the last two presentations? And so, which I think there's a consensus or maybe for that. What's the best way for us to move forward?
If you believe that more people are leaning towards no commitment, you should make a motion to accept to move the ordinance forward favorably with no commitments.
Okay.
You can move either way.
I understand. Vice Chair, go ahead.
Chair, can I suggest a motion?
Yes, you can.
And I'm going to preface this by saying I literally have gone back and forth and have gone back and forth with our chair as well. I do believe in the process of the neighborhood planning. And so we did approve that U2 density and am reassured because of the petitioner and the Department of Engineering that, these are some of the plans that we're looking at, either what was on the screen there or this cottage court. And I think some of the concerns have been addressed, in my opinion. That said, and I shared this with Councilman Davis, what comes out of the Plan Commission has been somewhat concerning. I mean, in this, and so I think I would have been, if I was there at that commission, would have been in the party that would have preferred that each of these come individually and with special exception rather than full zoning. Although, we did just pass this neighborhood plan and so this does adhere to the adopted zoning. So I'm going to change tune here, Chair, and this committee can feel free to vote it down or vote it up, but I'd like to make a motion to what's the motion? I'd like to make a motion to move forward with a favorable recommendation to the full council, to the committee of the whole, with no written commitment.
Chair's been moved to, send this forward with no written commitment.
I'll second.
It's been seconded. Would like to call for a roll.
Committee Member White,
Aye.
Committee Member Dr. Beininger,
Aye.
Citizen Member Stacy Odom,
Aye.
Citizen Member Kay Farlow,
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
Committee Chair Dr. Davis.
Aye.
I have all ayes.
And thank you again, and we are adjourned.
Because of the lateness of the time, we will not do the informal meeting. We'll see everybody at 7 o'clock. Thank you very much.